If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to another episode of Funbelt Podcast. My name's Jeremy Harper. I'm with HowRazor.com. His name is Dusty Thibodeaux from the Warhawk Report. Shane Mettlen will be joining us later. But right now we have, oh my God. First of all, make sure you follow us on Funbelt PC on Twitter, because you're going to get a lot of great information. Am I right, Tibbs? Isn't that where you get some penetrating information? We share a lot. We RT a lot. We have our own thoughts. You got to follow us.
It's a mix, yeah. It's a great place to get everything on the good old Funbelt during the game. Some in-game commentary, play-by-play, blow-by-blow,
yeah,
win-by-win. Something
happened in week 2 that, for whatever reason, increased the number of followers to Funbelt Podcast. Do you have any idea what that could be?
Kelly Damphouse riding out a Harley at Texas State?
No. I mean, that's good for some hits for Texas State. There must have been something else. Maybe something more cataclysmic, like some kind of huge Sunbelt happening.
Warhawks beat the Colonels.
You know what? That was in doubt at one point. I believe the Colonels were up 7 points. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, thanks for making me have flashbacks.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's it though. I think there was something else that happened. I think this might have been the most celebrated week of college football for the Sun Belt that has ever happened. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There was another time, I forget where I saw it on Twitter, where there were 3 P5 wins for the Sun Belt, but definitely nothing to the magnitude that we saw this past week, where 2 top 10 teams fell to the belt.
In 2019? No, maybe 2020. The Sun Belt had 3 wins, and we called it the Big 12 Massacre. It was Louisiana beat Iowa State, Arkansas State beat Kansas State, and then somebody beat somebody else. Oh, yeah, it was Coastal Carolina beat Kansas again. So at that time, Dusty, that was like, wow, the Sun Belt really made a name for itself. We really kicked some butt. But only one of those teams was ranked. Iowa State was ranked. Louisiana came in there, kicked their butts. It was cool. Kansas State was struggling a little bit, and we know that Kansas itself always struggling. So it was a good day. It was a day we could brag, but it didn't really touch beating number 8 Notre Dame through Marshall, or Appalachian State beating number 6 Texas A&M. And then for the nightcap, for the bow on the top, Georgia Southern, a team known for its sort of weird triple option offense, got rid of it this season. Totally different offense. Embarrassed Nebraska. Got its head coach Scott Frost fired. What a week!
And
yep.
Then there were some near misses that were just as impressive.
You know,
Georgia State was the most recent to play the Powder Blue of North Carolina, losing by 7. But the Panthers forced 3 turnovers and had over 400 yards of total offense.
Really should have won that game.
Should have won that game.
And Miami, go ahead.
Miami played Southern Miss.
Yeah.
The score looks like it got out of hand, but it was not this far out of hand of a 30-7 win for the Hurricane. Frank Gore was held to just 10 yards, but they have a quarterback now in Zach Wicke, a true freshman, first start, 16 of 27, 207 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. But we have a quarterback now in Hattiesburg.
They're getting wiki with it.
Please don't ever say that again.
No, that's the new T-shirt. They owe me royalties. But yeah, here's something that's been lost too. Like the Sun Belt East, of course, had some big wins. I understand that. In fact, all those wins that I talked about earlier were all Sun Belt East. But quite frankly, Sun Belt West, not as celebrated, took care of a lot of business. Louisiana, beat a pretty fairly tough Eastern Michigan team, which I thought Eastern Michigan was going to win. And through 3 quarters, I was right. And then suddenly, bam, Cajuns turn on the gas.
That game took forever because of weather delays after weather delay after weather delay.
Yeah. Another team that, you know what, they paid the bills. It wasn't sexy, but they got it done. Texas State or FIU. FIU, not a great team, but Texas State played like they should have played. Dispatched them.
I was there to witness it.
Yeah.
Spav's first ever home opener win.
Just outstanding for Spav because we were a little worried about Spav.
We're worried about him.
Maybe we're still worried about him. We don't know. You mentioned earlier the Warhawks avoided the FCS embarrassment, kept the Sun Belt slate clean for FCS victories. Yeah,
Tristan Drigger's second interception of the year has won in each of the 2 games now. Looking to see if he can do it this week against Alabama.
I heard that they're playing Alabama. Nice $1.9 million payout? That's pretty good.
I get none of that, by the way.
Yeah, where's our cut? We should get a little bit of that. Arkansas State did lose to Ohio State as expected, but
covered
the spread. Great teams covered. And quite frankly, Arkansas State came out of that game saying, hey, listen, we got into the red zone. We scored. We didn't get the touchdowns, and that's irritating. But we put plenty of 3 and outs on these guys. There's things that we can look back on beating or playing the number 3 team in the nation, a team as big and fast as Ohio State. And the game had some compelling moments. So
I was impressed by the Red Wolves. I will say that. And
Arkansas State looks like a different team.
James Blackman, the quarterback for Arkansas State.
Jason Blackman.
That is correct.
Yep.
188 yards.
Yep.
Kind of the mid-range pass was what was open and working there for the Red Wolves. Still had 100 yards, though, from Champ Fleming.
Champ Fleming is the real deal. He's about 5'6". He has no regard for his body. He will run at you at 1,000 miles per hour. A man 3 times his size. Bounce back up. He's ready for more. I'm afraid for the guy. But I
just like our Sun Belt Conference legend, Dwayne Frampton.
That's right. Frampton comes alive. That man, he took a lot of hits, and he made a lot of big plays for Arkansas State. But speaking of big plays, South Alabama came away with a big win against Central Michigan. Kind of one of those games I thought might be a game that Sun Belt loses. Not so. So the West, Tibbs, not the big top 25 wins. Maybe, we didn't close out escrow with Miami. Maybe we did, technically get blown out by Ohio State, but we did what we were supposed to do, damn it. What about the West?
I'm happy with the West. The West held its own. Yeah. I mean, the only West loss was Arkansas State. And Southern Miss.
Yeah, and Southern Miss.
That was a moral victory. That was an FCS moment. But no, I think the one game that I was kind of disappointed to see the conference take the L was Old Dominion at East Carolina. I thought that was a huge game for the league and one that really needed to be win over that AAC conference.
Yeah. I think some of the things I was afraid of for Old Dominion were kind of exposed against Eastern Carolina, which is a good offensive team. And if Old Dominion's defense isn't like 100% sharp, Old Dominion offense just doesn't have the firepower to keep up. I'm hoping that this Hayden Wolf, he played a little better. He played a little better against the Pirates, but not up to the level he needs to play to pick up a big wins again. I do, however, and we'll get to it when we talk about second and short, I do feel good about this Old Dominion Virginia game.
One other thing on that game, the Monarchs didn't really do much offensively, but they had explosive play after explosive play. Hayden Wolf, as you said, 18 of 29 for 275, 3 TDs, all of which went to Ollie Jennings. He only had 8 catches for 200 yards. And the Monarchs had 290 yards of total offense, only 15 yards rushing.
You gotta get it done on the ground. I know that by just watching the Red Wolves last year. You can have all the air offense you want. If you can't move the chains on the ground, you're not going to win. It's just, you can't do it. So have you been monitoring the national media, Tibbs, in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, there was a railroad strike that was going to happen.
Yeah, that got averted. Thank God, because what this nation needs is another logistics problem, right? No, I was worried on the sports side of the national spectrum. Have you noticed anything different?
Astros are still on a winning streak.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about the Astros. I'll tell you what's different.
The Texans got a tie.
No.
Oh.
Almost 2 20-20 ties though this week in the NFL. No, none of that. I'm talking about the Sun Belt love that I have been hearing. Now, some of it's a little condescending. Oh, look at the Sun Belt. Oh, look at those little guys. Look at them run. But for the most part, a lot of general admiration for not only the big wins that the Sun Belt has collected, but also the way the Sun Belt is run. The way we've been talking about for the last few months, how rivalry is king. I think a lot of people are beginning to realize, whoa, this is a well-planned conference. Look at this is how a conference should run. Why aren't we running our conferences this way? Have you gotten that sense, Tibbs? Am I just alone in this?
No, I think that it was proof that we made it when Keith Gill got a Reddit AMA.
That is the seal of legitimacy.
That's how you know you made it. I did not go back and read it. I was not there live to see it, but I did see where it was advertised.
Now, I will tell you one area for which I am pissed. And not everybody shares this. A lot of people are just kind of like, whatever, Harper. You can get mad. I am a little irritated with the AP Top 25. There are some teams that have clung to their number that I feel do not belong there. Oregon is one of those teams. Baylor is one of those teams. There's a lot of teams on the AP Top 25 that do not have the resume of Marshall, or for that matter, Appalachian State. Yet Appalachian State, Marshall left outside looking in. The Sun Belt, I believe, has the second most Power 5 out conference wins in all the conferences. No representation on the AP Top 25. Why am I so angry, and should I be?
Yes, you should be, but what do you expect as still being in the mid-majors? I mean, we're not going to get the respect until, well, I don't know how you get the respect, because I would say that 2 top 10 wins in the same weekend should get you that respect.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Here's what we keep getting told, Tibbs, that if we settle our business on the gridiron, if we do what we're supposed to do and get some wins, some of these high-profile victories over top 10 teams, well, eventually you'll be recognized and put into the top 25, and everything will be treated equally. That is bullshit. We are still not being treated equally. What is Oregon doing at number 25? If you put Arkansas State and Oregon side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the damn difference.
I think if you put any Sun Belt team against Georgia, they would score more than 3 points.
Thank you, Thibodeaux, for understanding where I'm coming from on that. Yes, absolutely. Oregon, having what they treated Georgia, they had Georgia at home. Am I correct? I believe so. Didn't Oregon have Georgia at home?
No, it was in Atlanta.
Oh, neutral site. Yeah.
At the Mercedes Dome. I think Oregon might have been the quote-unquote home team.
Yeah, okay. That all right. Maybe that's why I heard it was home, because I was about to even rail against that. But throw that out. Throw that aside. Yeah, I just don't understand why we can't get that representation in the second week of the season when we really do deserve it. You get all this love from the press. You think that we would get the votes, and it's just not happening.
A place where we are getting the votes.
Yeah.
And getting the love.
Mm-hmm.
Men's soccer. Where your Kentucky Wildcats and Marshall Thundering Herd are in a top 10 battle. this week
Okay.
for supremacy of the top 10 and the Sun Belt Conference lead.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for keeping me apprised of that. I don't really follow men's soccer as well as I should, and that's why I have you on the show.
Then on the women's side, you would be pleased to know, as we get ready to get started with Sun Belt Conference action this weekend, your ULM Warhawks 7-0-1 in non-conference action.
I saw that I'm not going to say Lady Warhawks because to me that's very condescending. The Warhawks, the women Warhawks, are kicking some ass. I did see that. Now, for me, I'm a little bit nervous about my Red Wolves because they can't score more than one goal in any game. The only time they've scored more than one goal in this sort of OOC season, we haven't started the conference season yet. The only time we scored more than one goal was against Central Arkansas. So I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous about my Red Wolves.
Another team that the Bobcats dominate, women's soccer, 6-1-1, having just lost to a nationally ranked TCU team. And then there's the bottom of the league of Southern Miss with one goal in 5 games as they get ready to break into the Sun Belt, traveling to Marshall.
Can you imagine being that team and just being like, God, how do we break through this? One goal. I bet you remember that goal if you're a fan.
Easily. And they did have an exhibition game against like a D3 or some kind of club that they manhandled like 9-0. But yeah, in real games, one goal.
Absolutely crazy. And not going to cut it in the top or in the very competitive women's soccer that is the Sun Belt.
We got a full pack show, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
We got guests waiting on us that we should get to right about now.
Let's not let them wait. Let's get them on the show.
Jeremy, this past weekend was probably the best weekend of Fun Belt football ever.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Ever. And the guys, we brought in not one but 2 guests. So your Cheez-It tray was not enough. Speaking of which, there were 3 teams that were Cheez-It teams of the week. Yeah,
and I only bought 1 box of Cheez-Its, and we have 2 guests.
It'll be a fight to the death for them.
All right.
Paul Swan joins us from the ESPN affiliate in Huntington, West Virginia, to talk about the Marshall Thundering Herd. Then Jake Crane of Crane & Company joins us. They cover the they don't cover the Sun Belt. We cover the Sun Belt.
We cover the Sun Belt. That's all.
They cover the SEC, though. And guess what? The SEC went down once again to a Fun Belt team this past weekend as Appalachian State went to College Station for the big win.
That's humiliating. How's Jake going to square this? I hope he has an explanation.
Well, I graduated from South Alabama, so anytime the Sun Belt does well, I'm always excited. The Jags, went and handled business at Central Michigan. I know there were some bigger upsets, but that was the same Central Michigan team that dropped 44 on an Oklahoma State team that prides itself on defense. And, when you look at when this stuff happens, obviously Marshall beating Notre Dame, App State beating A&M, again, James Madison starting out 2-0, beating Middle Tennessee, who then went on the road and beat Colorado State. I mean, you can go down the list. I mean, even Southern Miss was putting it to Miami a little bit early there before the run game really started hitting. Miami did keep it pretty base, but Will Hall's going to get that place turned around. Football's a funny thing, man. I coached 9 years, 6 at the Division I level, and it's amazing how hard it is to get 18 to 22-year-olds up playing at a certain level a decent amount of times during the year. Forget every game, but that's what makes Nick Saban and those guys, that's what's so impressive, even though they didn't look great against Texas. But, you look at a team like App. They're an older team. You got a quarterback in Chase Bryce that transferred from Duke. He's played in a lot of big environments. They played in big games there. And, App with the running game, I know they lost all their receivers from last year, but they had some younger guys that learned under them and were able to make the contested catches when they needed, even though they really didn't take a ton of shots down the field. But App State's been a place where we've seen not only the players have success, but the coaches. I mean, you look at Scott Satterfield, goes from there to Louisville. Eli Drinkowitz is there 1 year, goes to Missouri. Now Sean Clark, his name's hotter than a fat kid in a first sleeping bag at summer camp right now. So App's been doing this, but when you mix their brand, their tradition, their style of play with a group of veteran guys, including an offensive line that may be undersized but really knows what they're doing against a Texas A&M team that has a quarterback that panics, an offensive line that can't seem to figure it out, and they got dominated by time of possession. I mean, Texas A&M had 18 rushes. App State had 52. You do that with veteran players, and again, they played basically a perfect game.
Paul, is that what you kind of feel about the Marshall Thunder and Herd as well, that they had to play that perfect game to get that win in South Bend?
I don't think they had to play a perfect game. I think they had to go in and play their game, because Coach Huff has been preaching consistency. He wants this team to play as well as they did week 1, as they did week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. He's really been preaching that it doesn't matter about the team logo on the helmet, all that Nick Saban coach speak, but he's right. And he has got it to the point where now they expect to go in and play at Notre Dame. And he talked about how there's still things to clean up from that game, and they let some points happen and get on the board that they should have maybe denied them a little bit. So I don't think he feels like they played a perfect game or they had to play a perfect game, but he's preaching consistency, and he's got some really talented kids on that squad that they didn't have a year ago. Transfer portal has evened things up a lot for schools like Marshall, for Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, all the teams really.
How badly, Paul, does it kind of suck? I know it never sucks to beat Notre Dame, but how bad does it kind of suck to beat the number 8 team in the land, beat Notre Dame, one of the most storied programs in all of college football, only to have Appalachian State beat the number 6 team in the land, Texas A&M, and get the game day experience? Doesn't that make you just a little frustrated?
Oh, no, it just makes it even better for Marshall fans. So when Appalachian State comes to Huntington and gets beat by Marshall, hey, look, I got to play to my audience. But that's basically what's going to happen is Appalachian State's going to look great, come into Huntington. Marshall's going to beat Appalachian State. And again, I'm speaking for the fans here. And it's going to be even better. So have game day. No, I think it's great for the Sun Belt. I don't think anyone really is mad about that, because I think Herd fans are part of that celebration right now that, hey, look at the Sun Belt. Look what the Sun Belt's doing. It would be great to get game day to come in to see Marshall and Appalachian State. And there are still some fans who think that's going to happen. We'll see. But I think a lot of people are thinking that these two teams are on a collision course, and the winner is probably going to be the one that gets the Access Bowl.
So, Jake, whenever these games happen all the time, I mean, dating back to 07, 15 years ago, ULM goes in, beats Alabama. They beat Arkansas in 2012. I think Arkansas State's had a couple of big-time wins against A&M. When that happens, does the big schools, you think, kind of rethink it and say, maybe we don't want to play those schools? Maybe we want to try to get that, kickoff classic against a Florida State or against a Clemson or someone like that?
A lot of it depends on where the program is. Again, you always, whether you're an AD or whether you're a head coach, I mean, you've got your mind on certain teams that you would like to schedule. Because again, it's not typically just the head coach that makes that decision, even though there are places, like Alabama where that is the case. I had rules. I always had like 3 or 4 non-conference scheduling rules. Number 1, I'm never scheduling a triple option team. I don't care how good or how bad you are. I'm not taking the time to practice that, take it out of our normal practice time, because you just have to. And those games have a weird way of limiting possessions and getting really weird and scary late, even if you play good. The second one was, I'm not scheduling a school that's based on a religion. Nobody plays harder for longer than somebody that's worried about the afterlife. Number 3, I'm not going to Hawaii because I got to go up there for 2 extra days. It's hard to get the players to focus. You're practicing next to a volcano. Hell, I'd have a hard time focusing. That's rule number 3. And then number 4, if I'm going to play in one of those neutral site games or like a kickoff classic, let's just do it in my state. Great example. LSU played Florida State at a neutral site in New Orleans. Yeah, they lost, but that was a de facto home game. Georgia plays Oregon in a neutral site game in Atlanta. Yeah, right. I was born at night, but not last night. So, yeah, I mean, you're always taking notes. You're always, thinking of, maybe we don't schedule App State again. Maybe we schedule, I don't know, Alabama A&M or somebody like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a real thing. We're dealing with human beings.
Always going for the swagtastic angle.
Look, I mean, women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie.
Jake, the Sun Belt has been getting a lot of attention, not just for the wins, but the way they've structured the conference. What they'll say is we focus on rivalries. With the SEC and the Big Ten really just getting bigger and bigger, becoming almost like super conferences, looking at other programs. Is there any worry for you that maybe the SEC will sort of lose its way a little bit if they continue to expand?
Oh no, they'll just keep making more and more money. I mean, it's like getting haircuts. Like, I mean, people aren't going to stop doing it. And you talk about adding rivalries. I think Sankey's doing a good job of bringing teams that are just going to add to rivalries. I mean, bringing Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC is nothing going to do nothing but pour more gasoline on, an absolute wildfire right now when it comes to the amount of money they're making. I tell you what, I think the Sun Belt, when it comes to group of fives, has made some of the best moves, if not the best moves out there. I mean, we had Clay Helton on. We're releasing that Saturday. We were talking with him about the strength of the Sun Belt right now. While, conferences like the American are losing teams to the Big 12, you're seeing kind of a shift there. The Sun Belt's done nothing but add not only brand names, but teams that are already having success on the field. So I think the Sun Belt's made a lot of really good moves. The thing I'd be worried about if I was the Sun Belt is other conferences trying to poach your guys now that you got them, which is nothing but a compliment.
No, we're going to end up poaching some guys from the SEC. I'll just let you guys know that's in the works.
Good luck with that.
It's not poaching when they just boot Vandy.
That's right. They need
which I'm actually, you know what? Like, I would be totally for it. Vanderbilt is the definition of work smarter, not harder.
We'll take Vanderbilt. We could use that academic profile. Paul, I had a question about the Thundering Herd and how they're doing this sort of domination on the field without Rashid Ali. One, are the rumors true? Is he back? And one, and then two, how did
that's at Arkansas Education 1-3
yeah,
1 and 3? Okay, I'm good with it.
It's Rashid Ali, and then how did the Thundering Herd manage to run so well without Rashid Ali?
Okay, 2. I'll put the 2 in there for you.
Thanks. Add it up for me.
Yeah, Rashid is on the field now. Does that mean he's ready to go? No, he's on his own timetable right now. So he was. There were photos of him. Marshall is very social media, savvy these days. So there were photos of him. He's back. Coach said he was on his own timetable. He's basically doing his own thing as far as getting ready. I don't think you're not going to see him. I don't think for the Troy game. I don't think you're going to see him for Bowling Green. You'll eventually see him here. So the good news is, though, that gives other teams maybe something to worry about. The bad news is nobody knows. So I wouldn't expect him right away, or I don't know, maybe coach surprises us all, but I don't think he's 100% back just yet. The thing about Coach Huff is he loves the running back position. He loves the running back position. So he has a lot of input, the running back position. And a guy that he has on staff is a really good former running back in Doug Chapman. So running backs are Charles Huff's specialty. And I'm not too concerned about the running back position as long as Coach Huff is here, because he seems to understand that position well and bring guys in that really excel. And it was the same thing with Rasheen Ali. He comes in last year. Who's Rasheen Ali? Now everybody knows who he is. Now he's out. You're wondering when he comes back. And Kalen Laybourne comes in. Who's this kid? He was an Uber driver last year, right? Florida State guy, didn't really get on the field. Who's this kid? Now everyone's talking about him.
So we'll break down the games later on, Jeremy.
Yeah.
In our second and short section. Jake, I'll toss it to you first. Where does the Sun Belt go from here? Because I feel like this week is a potential for letdown. And it's not necessarily a blowout loss that, Baylor puts on Texas State, Alabama over ULM, whatever. But before the season even started, that Troy App State game that everyone's going to be looking at, for instance, I like Troy in the game. But is that a letdown for the conference if Troy goes in and wins like they probably should have?
Well, considering game days there, I think it's a win-win. What you want is a good game if you're the Sun Belt. You just want it to be a good game, some exciting plays that comes down to the wire, a good showing. Plays where guys bust one, 60 yards and it's kind of up tempo and stuff like that. But no, I don't think it's a referendum on the conference. Now, I will say it's a lot harder to rebound from prosperity than it is adversity. People have asked me all week, well, if you're Notre Dame or if you're A&M, how do you get your guys up for the next game? Well, these guys are so competitive. It's a lot easier to get up for the next game when you've gotten embarrassed. Nothing motivates an 18 to 22-year-old male more than being embarrassed in front of all his friends. It's something he's supposed to be the best at. They hear all the things that everybody else hears, so it's not as hard to get them up. On the flip side, if you're App State or you're Georgia Southern or you're, South Alabama or you're Marshall, everybody all week's patting you on the back. How high can this team go? You guys are the chosen ones. You're not paying for pancakes at IHOP in the morning. Everything, the birds sound better. Practice is, are you going to still have that same grit and that same mindset at practice because you're not playing a team that's kind of a Goliath to your David? But I think App State, again, it goes back to being a veteran team. I don't think App State, if they were a lot younger and a lot of crazy stuff had happened, because they beat A&M. I mean, they played to their game plan and beat them. They ran the ball and stopped the run. That's what they had to do. They dominated time of possession. So I'm not as worried about App State as I might be for a Georgia Southern, even though Georgia Southern's not unbelievably young. It's that staff's first year there. Clay hadn't had a lot of time to really put in his culture and implement his mindset on that team. So I'd worry more about Georgia Southern than I would about App State. But ULM, best of luck to you, especially the way that Alabama played last week. That's going to be a bloodbath of epic proportions. And then the second game, Texas State, kind of same thing a little bit. You're going to play Baylor, who didn't play very good, especially offensively against BYU. So those are probably going to be ugly. But it's all coming up green right now for the Sun Belt.
So I got kind of a two-part question, more like an inside-outside question, with Paul being on the inside, Jake kind of being on the outside. The top 25 came out, the AP top 25. I saw a lot of questionable teams, guys like Oregon, maybe Baylor, some of the others sort of get a pass. I see Marshall and Appalachian State being shut out of the top 25, even though they did get a lot of votes. Paul, is that unfair? Am I being like a little too sensitive to this, or does the Sun Belt kind of have a beef here?
I don't think the Sun Belt has a beef. I think it's something that the players don't really pay attention to. The coaching staff hasn't really been focusing on that. So it's something that fans look at. Hey, where's the team ranked? Marshall's 26 if you technically want to look at it. And so Marshall, the number 26 team in the country, it can stay undefeated, just going to move up. Yeah, I think it's too early to worry about that now because Marshall's got to worry about Bowling Green. If Marshall can't get past Bowling Green, it doesn't matter what the poll looks like. Because if they were ranked, it'll be the quickest tumble, possible. If Marshall can just continue to build on that success, be consistent, right, it'll find its way because I don't think anyone's going undefeated in the Sun Belt. So eventually, somebody's going to tumble, but I don't think that at the same time Marshall is really looking at the polls going, oh, we got slighted. The fans are. The fans definitely are like, look, hey, Marshall should, look at, why is this team here? Why is this team there? It makes great fodder for radio shows, but at the end of the day, I don't think the coaching staff's going, man, wish we were 25th.
You know what? That's a great and gracious answer, Paul. Is he getting it right, Jake? Is that the attitude he should have on that?
No, I think he's right. The only time the coaches care about the top 25 outside of obviously where you finish is if you get in it, sometimes there's a signing bonus attached to a contract. So, whether that's $10,000, that's about the only time. But no, I'm with it. If you're App State, if you beat North Carolina, you're ranked. If you get one of those 2-point conversions or you don't play that bad in the third quarter, you're ranked right now. So I don't think App has a beef. Marshall, like Paul said, they're right on the outside. I think what the committee is going to be looking for are the people that vote on it is just consistency. Marshall being able to bounce back from a big win. They string a couple more wins together. Somebody in front of them is going to lose. They'll get pushed into the top 25. So when you have a team like a team from the Sun Belt that has a big upset, you won't see them make as big of a jump as some of the brand name schools. A great example is Texas loses and jumps in the poll at number 20, even though both their quarterbacks are having to, get fixed up right now. So look, Marshall puts a couple together, they'll be in it. If App State puts a couple together, I wouldn't be shocked to see them in it.
Jake, as a Jaguar, as Jeremy would call them, Jaguar.
I can't pronounce it.
He cannot pronounce it. Tell me about the governor, Kane Womack, and what is your thoughts on that South Alabama team that's kind of up and coming?
Yeah, man. Well, Kane is able. I said it when he took the job. Said it when he went. Yeah, that's a Bible reference.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Look, Kane came in. He's the son of a coach. He gets it. I knew when they made that hire that it was going to work out. That the thing about South Alabama is it's a gold mine. I mean, you're sitting in one of the most talent-rich places in the contiguous United States. I mean, you look at per capita, there ain't a lot of places, if any, that put more players in the NFL than the Panhandle. LA, which is Lower Alabama, not Los Angeles. UCLA, which we all know is the upper corner of Lower Alabama. You look at all the talent that comes out of there. It's just a matter of time. Getting that on-campus stadium was huge, but they look athletic. They're able to move up front. They're not as small as what South usually was up front. And typically when we had bigger guys, they didn't move very well. But Kane's brought a mindset in there. They're not afraid of anybody. Defensively, they're very assignment sound. They don't get out of their gaps a lot. And you saw when they faced adversity this year, they've been able to thrive through it. And I think that's the difference in this year's team. So I think South Alabama is a sneaky team to win the Sun Belt. I know I may have a little bias there. Obviously, Marshall's a great program. Surprised to see them doing what they're doing after losing Grant Wells, to be honest with you. Then, you look at what App State's done. Troy obviously is a very storied place, even though they've got to figure it out offensively a little bit. So now I'm as proud as I could be of them, and hopefully they can keep it rolling. They got a tough one at UCLA out there, the other UCLA, but I think that may be a tighter game than what people think.
Man, that's my upset special, actually. I see South Alabama doing pretty well out there.
I hope so, man.
They have a history of going out in the West Coast and doing well. So
yeah, we beat San Diego State when I was there. So yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the Sun Belt West being an Alabama team, whether it be Troy or South. I think whoever wins that head-to-head is there. But, Paul, I ask you this on the East side. Everyone talks about this juggernaut of the East. Do you feel that these new teams coming in have kind of lived up to the hype 2 weeks in?
Marshall so far has lived up to its hype. I think you're going to see a improving over the years Old Dominion program. I mean, that program is set for success. So it might not happen this year, but it's set for success. And I love Southern Miss. I think when Southern Miss was on top of its game, the Conference USA was way better with Southern Miss on top. So if Southern Miss can figure it out, pull it together, I think you're going to see a dogfight in the West, and it's just going to make everyone better. And, James Madison, they're a championship caliber program. Marshall came from then 1AA. Appalachian State came from 1AA. Georgia Southern came for 1AA. So I'm not surprised by the success from James Madison so far, with Marshall coming into the new league. Plus, Coach Huff really addressing some, I don't want to say deficiencies, but there's a lot more depth on this team now. And the transfer portal, it has made the playing field more even. You got a quarterback that was at Texas Tech. He has been in big games. So you lose a Grant Wells. Okay, Henry Colombi, he's played in big venues. He comes in and he brings that big time experience in. And I think that's where Marshall's been able to succeed so far. Is there are a lot of players that are new to this team, and they've seen it at bigger programs and they've been through it. So you go into, say, Notre Dame, you're not really shell shocked by it, or you're not, oh, hey, this is Notre Dame. It's like, okay, this is another game. Let's go win it.
All right, my final question for you both. I'll throw it to you first, Paul, and then to Jake. Will we finally see a G5 in the playoff, especially now that it's expanded?
Well, we've already seen a G5 in the playoff.
Cincinnati doesn't count.
Okay, all right, I got you. I can run with that.
Oh, so you're saying G5, not a P6.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Correct. One of us.
One of us. Well, with the new playoff format, you're going to see one of us eventually because they're going to take the 6 highest conferences. And so you've got the Power 2 with the Big Ten and the SEC, and then the rest of us. Because I don't know what they're doing out west with the Pac-12. So, are they even going to be a Pac? Yeah, are they going to be a power conference in a few years? Who knows?
They're the Pac-10 right now anyway.
True. Very true. Very true. So I think with the new format, the Sun Belt's in a great position because they're going to take 6 the highest rated conference champions. They're going to take 6. So it might be with this new playoff format, it might be the Sun Belt if the Sun Belt and the league can keep this up because coming from Conference USA, I think the Sun Belt it's got its stuff together a lot better than Conference USA. I feel like Conference USA as a league was just trying to hold on, especially after so many years of the American just rating the league. I feel like that league right now is just trying to hang on, whereas I feel like the Sun Belt is a forward-moving conference. It has a lot of great competition. It has a plan. It's run better. It just feels like this is a major college football conference, whereas Conference USA didn't. So I think, one of us, it's the Sun Belt team. I think the Sun Belt has a great shot at being at the table year in and year out.
Yeah, look, I think the Sun Belt right now, when you look who's leaving the American, the Sun Belt looks about as organized and prepared as any G5 conference. Now, when it comes to seeing a group of 5 team in the playoff, even though it's expanded to 12, I think you're going to have to go undefeated. You're going to have have a team that goes undefeated. But, the Sun Belt has positioned themselves, with the addition of teams like Marshall and Appalachian State, because this isn't something that just happened the last couple of years. They've been making good moves for a while now. And then all of a sudden you look at each division and you're like, hey, there's a lot of teams that I recognize now in the Sun Belt that I'm not used to considering a Sun Belt team when it comes down to brands. So I think they're going to have as good of a shot as anyone. Like I said, the main thing is just don't let anybody poach any of these teams. And if you're going to add, keep making the right choices. Don't just add people to add people, because that's going to water down the work that you've already done, which has been outstanding so far. So, yeah, I think they'd have to go undefeated, but I think there's a shot.
Fantastic, guys. Paul, Jake, can't thank you enough for joining us here on Fun Belt Podcast. Looking forward to seeing what this remaining 10 weeks holds and seeing where we go from there.
Guys, it's been a blast.
All right. So, last week we tried something new, Shane. It was called Second and Short. And how would you like it?
I liked it.
Yeah, it worked out. And you know why it's necessary, Shane?
Because we could ramble a little bit when we had unlimited time to talk about this game.
Old man rambling between you and me. And Tibbs isn't here for this. That's okay. This will make things even tighter. It'll make things, this segment, a tighter version of the show. But also because there is so much Sunbelt action going on right now. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of nice that James Madison has taken this off week to help us just kind of make the show run a little smoother.
Yeah, it'll get easier as the season goes along. We have some conference games.
Absolutely.
We have a conference game this week. JMU's off. It cuts it down a little. We don't have 14 games to go over this week, which is I liked having 14 games.
Oh, me too.
On Saturday to always have something to do, always something to have paying attention to. But trying to preview and recap 14 games in 1 week is a little much.
Yeah, I write a little post every week about Sunbelt games, Sunbelt Heat, I call it. We talk a little bit about the games and what to expect. We talk about the odds, all these things. And when you have 14 games to cover, man, that's a lot of writing. Yeah. That's a deep bit of writing that I don't feel like I'm adequately paid for. But I don't do it for the pay, Shane. I do it for the people.
Yeah. I mean, if you kept that to even 100 words per game, you're still got a pretty lengthy article.
It's a beefy article.
Yeah.
All right. So here's why I suggest we get into Second and Short. We'll put a little background music when we put it together. It'll sound really cool.
Yeah.
And our viewers are going to just be better informed. You know what? They're going to be better informed as to what time the games are, who's the opponent, but most of all, maybe the gambling community will have a better idea as to where to put their money, right, Shane?
Yeah, I didn't go back and double check.
Yeah.
I think we pointed people in a pretty decent direction last week.
I think we gave some good counsel.
I didn't go back and double check exactly how we did with our counsel on the spreads and everything, but
and this is an invitation.
We said Marshall.
We did.
And Georgia Southern were going to be competitive in those games. I don't know if we picked wins, but we pointed people in the right direction.
We definitely picked the points.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, first game. We're going to start it off. Texas State at number 17 Baylor, 11 o'clock on FS1. Shane, what am I going to see in this game?
It's going to be tough for Texas State.
Yeah.
They rebounded a little bit to what was one of the more disappointing openers in the whole conference.
Yes.
And, got that win against FIU. Looked pretty solid doing it. Definitely going to be a lot tougher. Baylor is going to be motivated to come back. They don't want to lose 2 in a row. Yeah. 30-point spread, though.
Seems crazy.
I could see Texas State keeping it close, but not closer than that. I'm thinking 2 to 3 touchdowns more than 30 points. But honestly, I probably wouldn't put any money on this game if I was picking games to bet on, just because it's hard to know whether this one's going to get out of hand or not. But I could see it being a little more competitive than 30 points. That's a lot.
Shane, don't tell my wife, but I am definitely putting money on this. 30 points.
Hey, all right.
Against a Bobcats team that finally, kind of, I don't know if they took a big step, but they got kind of a monkey off their back. They beat a really struggling FIU team. We know that. Beating FIU isn't going to be like something that only Georgia State would put a banner up for. But I like what I saw of Lane Hatcher. I liked what I saw, the moxie that I saw from the coach, which I think is what the team desperately needed. You know what? This is going to sound crazy. Grab the points, in my opinion. I don't think Baylor is as good as they think they are. I don't think they're in the Big 12, and I don't think the Big 12 is that good. I say take those points, and you put $5 on Texas State beating these guys outright. They played Baylor really well last year when this game was held in San Marcos. I know that doesn't say, well, then they'll probably win this time, but I do like Texas State. Next game. You know what? I'm looking forward to your insight on this, Shane, because you're an East Coast guy. I think you pay attention. These are 2 East Coast teams going. Buffalo at Coastal Carolina at noon, ESPN+. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I was going to say rebound for Coastal Carolina. I see them coming out and playing better. They won last week, but we're not impressive doing it. Buffalo seems like they're terrible.
Yeah.
I expect a better performance from Coastal Carolina, a little bit, motivated maybe if they were overlooking that week 2 sandwiched in between, at least on paper, by reputation, by name, bigger games between Army and Buffalo. I think Coastal Carolina will cover that 14-point spread in this one. I think this is 17 to 20 point win for Coastal.
I don't know what's going on with Coastal Carolina. They seem like such a professional team, even though they were always kind of loose. They had trouble with Army, which is understandable. Army always makes you look dumb. But then to have such problems with FCS Gardner-Webb at home. And here's another thing that amuses me about Coastal Carolina. These guys never seem to play an OOC schedule at the beginning of the year on the road. They're always at home, which I know you're saying, oh, well, that's smart scheduling. That's the way to go. Hey, that's what the SEC does, right? Except I don't really think that does much for toughening up your players. You have to go on the road. You got to go on the road, make people, put your players in that crucible, and they're just not doing it. And now here comes Buffalo, who isn't doing well this year. They're coming from the MAC. Historically, though, in recent history, Buffalo's been pretty dangerous. So I don't know if Coastal Carolina looks past this. Vegas line says 14 points. What do you do with that, Shane? 14 points for the chance.
I'm still picking Coastal. Yeah, I think they're going to win this one more comfortably even than last year. Buffalo's coming off a loss to Holy Cross.
Yes,
that's I think Coastal. I still think from the outside looking in, it seems like maybe Coastal was like just on cruise control last week, knowing they were probably going to win that game if they didn't bring their best stuff. And I think they're probably maybe a little bit of a wake up call.
Yeah, I'm picking the chance to win. I don't know about those points. Next game. This game's intriguing to me. And I'm going to start this off, Shane, because it's a Western team. I think I'll do the West, you do the East. South Alabama at UCLA. Pac-12 Network, 1 p.m. And this is why it intrigues me. One, going with historically, Sun Belt has been god-awful against the Pac-12. I think we're something like 35-0 against the Pac-12. It's a long trip. You get there, you're tired, you're askew, you just want to jump in the Pacific. I get it. Here's why I'm intrigued by this game. One, I don't believe in UCLA. I don't think the Bruins are for real at all. And two, South Alabama kind of has a history of going to the West Coast and making teams that are perceived to be better look kind of silly, like they did a few years ago against San Diego. Now, San Diego came back to South Alabama the next year with a number next to their name, got beat again by South Alabama. South Alabama just not only just seems like a team that's a little bit on a mission with Kane Womack, playing a lot better, sealing the deal, closing escrow on the game. I feel like this is a dangerous game for UCLA. Shane, back me up on that.
I agree. I look for South Alabama to at least cover in this one, if not win outright. I mean, South Alabama has kind of been that team that's gone unnoticed here in the first couple weeks of the season. For they haven't had the splashy wins they haven't had the big Power 5 wins, but they have a solid victory against a good MAC program, Central Michigan.
Yeah,
and really took care of them pretty easily on the road. So they haven't had those big marquee wins. They don't have the long winning streak like Louisiana. They didn't surprise everybody as a move up like JMU. They're not the new kids on the block. They're getting all the attention like Marshall and ODU. They just kind of have slid under the radar the first couple weeks, and I think they're a pretty solid team, and I think maybe it's their turn to get the attention this week.
Absolutely. The Vegas says 15 points. I say take those points and possibly go ahead and take South Alabama to win this game. If you feel inclined. This game, Shane, you must be really looking at, because this game, there's a lot of bragging rights in your part of the woods. We're talking about Old Dominion at Virginia, 1 p.m. ACC Network. The line is 9.5 for the Cavaliers. Tell me what you think.
A little surprised it's not a little bit closer, just given, it is in Charlottesville. They haven't been packing Scott Stadium recently. I don't think it's going to be a significant home field advantage for them. There's going to be tons of ODU fans there. I don't see a huge difference between the expectations for Virginia Tech and Virginia this year. If you're just looking at what ODU's already done. And I'll be careful here because I do have some Virginia fans in my house. Not that they're paying a whole lot of attention to UVA football this year, but they didn't let Hudson the puppy get a sideline pass for this game.
Yeah, I heard this.
I don't know what they're thinking. I think karma is going to get them. I'm liking ODU in revenge for Hudson in this one.
I like ODU too, and I'll tell you why. I thought Virginia looked god-awful against Illinois. They lost 24-3. Their quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, threw 2 picks, only 180 yards. Now, I feel like what Old Dominion has is a defense. I feel like they can play defense with these guys. And if they can kind of get Hayden Wolf moving a little bit, he did a little bit better against the Pirates. He still needs to play a lot better. This is one of these games where I know that the Cavs, they get the ACC bump, they get the home team bump, but quite frankly, I think this is a game that Old Dominion can win outright. I'm picking Old Dominion to win this game.
Yeah, I really look at it similar to ODU and Virginia Tech, where it could be 20-17 late in the game, and whichever team makes a play wins it. And it was ODU when they played the Hokies. Virginia hasn't shown us very much so far this year. I'm liking ODU in this one.
Okay. I don't know if you've heard this, Shane, but College Game Day is going to Appalachian State. They're going to Boone this week. Have you heard this?
Is that because they beat Michigan?
No. This isn't even concern Michigan. This is because they beat number 6 Texas A&M.
I did hear something about that.
And Appalachian State has become the Sun Belt darling. If the Sun Belt itself is the darling of college football, then Appalachian State is the darling of the Sun Belt. Poor Herd. The Herd goes out and they beat number 8 Notre Dame. Everybody's like, yeah, that's good for you, Herd. Appalachian State, woo! But they get College Game Day, which is cool. But they also get to host Troy. Now, that happens at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus, which I thought was a little bit funny that College Game Day is coming to a game that's being aired on the Plus. I've heard that this has happened other times, so maybe it's not that big a deal. But who do you think comes out on top of this, Shane?
I like Appalachian State in this one. They seem, as much as we harped on their defensive deficiencies in week 1, they sure seem to solve that quickly.
Absolutely.
In week 2. Really got things together. They're getting used to handling all the off-field things that go along with their first month of the season. There's something there's something in the pregame off-field hype happening in every game for App State here early in the season. So they're ready for that. They're used to that. I think, and probably just a little bit better team than Troy. I like Troy, but I feel like App State's, near the top of the conference and probably going to handle business at home.
Yeah, I kind of think that after watching the first 2 games of the season, Shane, that Appalachian State's a much better team than Troy. Now, Troy, I think, is going to come into Boone pretty hyped to find themselves, featured on College Game Day. It's not their campus, but, they're part of the narrative now. And they might come up with an Appalachian State team that is understandably a little hungover after beating the number 6 team in the land. I get that. I think one of the problems with Troy is that they still quite haven't found that synergy in offense. We've seen Gunnar Watson. Gunnar Watson's doing okay. But I don't know if Gunnar Watson is the guy that's going to lead them over Appalachian State. So just to clear this, I think, here we go. I think Appalachian State wins this game. They're 12.5-point favorites. I think they even beat that spread. I think they beat Troy pretty handedly. That's my
12.5 seems like a pretty reasonable number to put on there, and I could see them winning it by a couple touchdowns. Especially if they have things under control in the second half, kind of can salt the game away a little bit.
Georgia Southern at UAB, 2:30 p.m. at watchstadium.com. That's where you can catch Georgia Southern at UAPB. You have to log on to watchstadium.com to see this game.
Yeah, I'm sure our friends who have recently joined from Conference USA have plenty to say about that.
That's pretty funny. Poor Georgia Southern. Hey, your reward for beating Nebraska, you get to be online on some sort of obscure website to play UAP. What do you think of this game, man? What do you think of Georgia Southern?
They're not getting a ton of respect from Vegas after Nebraska. Significant favorite. UAB, solid, but it's not like they've been world beaters here early in a season. I'm surprised, looking at least what I'm seeing here, some of your numbers have been a little different, but I've seen 11.5 point favorite for UAB, and that seems hot. I'm not saying UAB won't win. I expect a pretty competitive game, pretty interesting game that would be nice if people could watch. But
you can watch on watchstadium.com.
Yeah. Yeah, but that number seems a little high to me.
It does to me too, Shane. And quite frankly, I feel like Georgia Southern might be not just sneaky lucky, but sneaky good. I didn't really have much faith in them going into the season. But I caught a little bit of that Georgia Southern-Nebraska game. And they look like they're just a whole new team under Clay Helton. Now, the Blazers have already taken a loss to Liberty, which Liberty, they beat Southern Miss already. They come and beat the Blazers. I don't know if UAB, who's on their way to the American, is that good a team.
Yeah, because is Liberty that good of a team? They struggled with they struggled to beat Southern Miss, and Southern Miss, has a lot of issues. They can't keep a quarterback healthy. It's
they're not a good team.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know it's in Birmingham. I get that Birmingham. There must be a huge bump for being in Birmingham. I say not only take these points, I say maybe take this game outright.
I don't think Birmingham's a tougher place to play than Lincoln, Nebraska, personally.
They've got a nice little facility there. Don't get me wrong. I like Birmingham. Some people say Birmingham. I like Birmingham.
Yeah, but you may have noticed there was a lot of red in that Nebraska stadium, as there always is.
I did. I didn't see a whole lot.
Even though Nebraska's not great, if we're talking home field advantages, I don't think anything in Birmingham is going to be intimidating to Georgia Southern this week.
They love their sad, less than mediocre team in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's for sure. Hey, here's a game. You ready?
Yes.
ULM at number 2 Alabama, 3 p.m. on the SEC network. Now, here's my favorite part about this game. Not only is it, I believe, a 49-point Crimson Tide spread, which is even bigger than the spread given to Ohio State and Arkansas State. I love that Nick Saban is still irritated by the Warhawks. Here's a quote, and you can almost hear the Imperial March playing behind him when he says it. I don't forget things. I remember when these guys beat us. And you gotta think to yourself, oh God, the Warhawks, you're in so much trouble. Is there a reason to watch this game, Shane?
Not really, unless you really want to see what, if you really want to get a scout of ULM and you can tune in, but the 50-point line seems to me like Vegas encouraging people not to bet on this game, but who knows? If Saban's that fired up, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he doesn't run it up so much. They run the ball, but if he's that fired up over a loss that happened a decade ago or more.
Yeah, the only reason that maybe I take the points on this, Shane, is one, that is a lot of points. It's really hard, even against ULM, to score that many points. And so you're kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll put a few bucks on taking those points. And I don't know if Saban's really that interested in going out and making an example out of the Warhawks. Although there seems to be a lot of people who took that Alabama-Texas game as exposing Alabama for not being very good this year. So I could see Saban saying, oh yeah, you don't think we're good? Look what we're going to do to the Warhawks.
I did have to go back and look at Alabama, and they did beat Utah State 55-0. I would imagine Utah State and ULM are similar foes. Okay. Because my original thought was how often does Alabama actually go out and score 50 points? Because they'll run the ball a lot. They'll take their time marching down the field. They're not in any concern.
This isn't 2012 Oregon. You know, they're not making their business by putting 70 points on you. They're mostly there just taking care of business.
But they did go 55-0 in week 1, so it's certainly possible.
Marshall and Bowling Green, Shane. This game starts at 4 p.m. and it's on the NFL Network, which it's not quite as funny as WatchStadium.com, but I think Mac has some sort of deal with the NFL Network this year. Marshall comes in after that big win against Notre Dame, number 8, had the most votes in the AP Top 25 poll, still didn't get in. What do you think of Marshall? Does Marshall kind of fall apart here? Do they just kind of rest a little too easy, or do they go ahead and beat that 17-point spread?
I think they can cruise in this one. Bowling Green's not very good. Bowling Green struggled. Marshall looks pretty dang good so far. Beating Notre Dame is one thing, but they also took care of business against their FCS opponent. They apparently have a very deep running back room. They just look solid. I think they're going to roll in this one. I'm not saying they're going to, cruise to an undefeated season or anything, but I don't think this is the week where they fall.
I can't decide which Group of 5 conference is having a harder time between CUSA, the MAC, and the Mountain West. They all seem to be struggling this year. Am I the only one who sees that? Is it that the Sun Belt is getting so much publicity right now that the others are just going beneath the radar? But when you and I have to put together our top 10 list, I have a hard time looking into these other conferences and finding somebody to think, oh yeah, they belong in the top 10.
Yeah, the Mountain West seems pretty top heavy, but yeah, I'm not finding in Conference USA it's just bad, and I just see a lot of average teams in the MAC. Nobody that's really jumped out to me that they belong in that top 10 when we're talking Group of 5 poll. So I'm with you on that. And yeah, the MAC's not a great conference this year, and Bowling Green is not a good MAC team. So I'm pretty confident in Marshall this week. Vegas has
the Marshall Thundering Herd, 17 points. I'm tempted to take the Herd to beat that spread. All right, here's a game that we probably don't need to talk much about. Maybe we can talk about something else. I don't know. Maybe we just talk about this game. Northwestern State, whom I know nothing about, at Southern Miss, 6 p.m., ESPN 3. You kind of wonder, can Frank Gore play defense? Can he kick field goals? Can he punt? Can he lead the cheer squad? Quite frankly, Southern Miss kind of needs this game. They need to get the win. They need to get that taste in their mouths and figure out how that feels. But they also need to find some more playmakers not named Frank Gore Jr.
Yeah, and I think this is coming at a good time for them. They've had tough opening couple of weeks, and this is a game they should win. They should get at least that victory on the board, feel good about themselves for a night before they start moving on to the next one. And I fully expect them to win this one, even with their struggles trying to find a quarterback, adjust their offense to be something other than Frank Gore. You look at Northwestern State's 0-2. They've lost to 2 FCS teams, including Grambling, which we talked about earlier this season when they were playing Arkansas State. Ended up, really struggling against the Red Wolves. So I expect Southern Miss to not have a ton of trouble in this one.
So do you think Will Hall is just as sweaty as he was caught being sweaty at Miami last week?
I haven't checked the weather, but
I don't know the humidity. I don't know the
typically tends to be it typically tends to be sweaty type weather in Mississippi, I think. So
yeah. I thought that was a funny picture. I did enjoy that. All right, we're going to cut this one 10 seconds short to move on to the next one.
The next one's a good one, I think. If we're
I think so.
In the order, I think so.
We're going in the order of time, I don't overthink it. Arkansas State at Memphis, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. You know how long they've been playing this game, Shane?
How long?
Since 1914. That's 12 years before Queen Elizabeth was even born. Wow. That's how long Memphis and Arkansas State have been playing. This will be the 60th meeting between Arkansas State and Memphis. So, there's a lot of talk about this game in Jonesboro because it's a rivalry game for us. Memphis sometimes kind of turns their nose up. Once they went to the AAC, they've always been a little bit snotty about Arkansas State. In fact, even before they went to the AACC, they're a little bit snotty about Arkansas State. But here's the thing: how I look at this game. Arkansas State actually came away from that game against Ohio State with a sort of this idea that, hey, we could play with these guys. We got in the red zone. We scored some points. We didn't get into the end zone, but we made some defensive stop. And you look at this Tiger team, and they've been a team that's been bouncing off the ceiling since 2019 when they went to the Cotton Bowl. They haven't been the same team since. I see the line on this game is 14 for the Tigers. I actually see Arkansas State not only covering that, I see them winning this game. I feel like there is a kind of moxie with Arkansas State right now that Memphis doesn't have. Memphis lost their first game in Mississippi State, which was understandable, but they didn't look good at all. And then they beat a Navy team that's really struggling this year. So neither team has really played a game that really reflects their abilities. But I do like Arkansas State in this game. Back me up, please.
I'm with you, especially on what you just said about neither team has really played a game that shows anything. We just talked about Arkansas State. They ran Grambling off the field, and then they went and got their paycheck at Ohio State. and we're relatively competitive. I think, if you're Arkansas State, you got to be pretty happy with how the Ohio State game went if you didn't have any expectations of winning that one.
Yeah.
I expect this one to be very competitive. I might not be quite ready to say Arkansas State outright, although that wouldn't shock me. But I definitely see it being a close game. And like you said, it's a big one for Arkansas State. They're going to be fired up.
Yeah, look out for Memphis quarterback Seth Hennigan. The guy can throw the ball. It's going to be a lot of throwing. It'll be a true test of that for that Arkansas State secondary that's still trying to find themselves. Next game. This is a game that's amusing to me for a couple reasons. One, it kind of pits. It's a peer conference versus peer conference thing. But two, it's also against a program that was sucked up by the American when they started panicking because they started losing all their programs. Charlotte at Georgia State, 6 p.m. ESPN+. Panthers are a 19-point favorite, although they're 0-2. What do you think of this game?
We talked about how for South Alabama, it's their opportunity to kind of join the party and get noticed. I think similar for Georgia State. Nobody's going to be like, oh, wow, you beat Charlotte, but I think they're going to beat the brakes off Charlotte, honestly. Like, Charlotte's bad. Georgia State's got to be frustrated to be 0-2 where they had a shot to win games against a couple of Power 5 teams, and then they see all the attention that the other teams in the Sun Belt are getting for doing that. I think Georgia State's ready to come out and kind of take out their frustrations on Charlotte this week.
Do you think the AAC is looking at Charlotte and their 0-3 record and that miserable loss to William and Mary and saying, what did we do? Why are we including these guys?
I don't know. I mean,
they must have believed in their thought process for the teams that they added for whatever reason.
But it's hard for me to find the logic in going after teams like Charlotte. FAU.
What's funny to me is AAC, they seem to me like they're making that mistake CUSA did and they're looking for markets. And that's not the best way to do it. I think the Sun Belt showed you how to do it. By the way, Darren Granger, starting quarterback for Georgia State, looked a lot more like the top-tier quarterback he was supposed to look like against North Carolina. So, yeah, I think you're right, Shane. I think a game against Charlotte really tunes everything. 19 points, though, you think?
I think they'll win by 3 touchdowns. I think they're going to win going away. Like, it's going to – I really think Georgia State's going to send Charlotte back in a body bag. Like, just given what Charlotte's done earlier this year, and Georgia State's they've got something to prove, I think.
They really do. They really do. They've been everybody tells them that they belong in the conversation for the Sun Belt East, and right now they're sitting at 0-2, wondering, hey, when are people going to talk about us? So yeah, maybe win a game, and then we'll talk. James Madison versus
Not
the bye
this week. Yeah.
Good for James Madison. James Madison had had a nice game against their FCS opponent. Just said, "You have been dispatched, sir."
Yeah, and would you believe that the JMU fans are already getting excited for the trip to Boone to face Appalachian State on September 24th?
Really, the first big test for James Madison. Actually, the whole. I'll give you this, Shane. The whole season has been a test for James Madison. James Madison, are you worthy of being in the Sun Belt? James Madison, are you worthy of being in the FBS? So far, the answer has been yes and yes. You go to Boone.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about this more next week, but yes, the way it ended up being, the first 2 weeks at home for JMU ended up not feeling any different than their FCS days because they beat bad teams badly. And so now it almost sounds like, okay, well, this is the real debut coming up.
I can see it. I feel like you're about to receive a real body blow here. How will JMU respond? But you know what? You're right, Shane. That's week 3. Wait, we're in week 3. That's week 4.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about week 4 right now. We got one more game on the slate. And this game is between, I actually kind of would like Rice to be in the Sun Belt. They're just a smart school, right? And they really elevate your academic profile to have Rice in there. Louisiana at Rice, 6:30 p.m., ESPN Plus. Let me tell you something about Louisiana, Shane. Louisiana has completely befuddled me. Like that the first 3 quarters of the ECU game pretty much went the way I expected it. I figured ECU was just sort of gonna grind and pound and slowly score, and they're gonna use their sort of tough Mac mentality to just kind of frustrate and wear out the Cajuns, who I keep insisting have lost too much to compete. And then Louisiana goes ahead, puts up 21 points in the third quarter, and then 28 more points in the fourth quarter to send Eastern Michigan packing. Is it time for me to start believing in the Louisiana Cajuns?
Yeah, you do want to see them maybe come to play when the game starts here. Like, they've been slow starting early this season, but yeah, I kind of see them moving along to 3-0 after this one. They're favored. Rice, which if I hear right, it sounds like you're advocating for Rice to eventually become the Vanderbilt of the Sun Belt.
I would love Rice to be the Vanderbilt of the Sun Belt.
That makes a little sense. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, so maybe this is a preview of things to come. I don't know, but yes, Louisiana. I think the nation's longest winning streak certainly stays intact, and I feel like they'll pull away late once again to cover this one. Look at 11.5 point spread.
So one thing that the Cajuns are doing is a true split between Ben Woodridge and Chandler Fields at quarterback. I think they named Chandler Fields the starter in the first week, but they're really kind of giving both guys the ball and saying, "Here we go." They did that at Arkansas State a couple years ago. I hated it. I guess it's working right now for Louisiana. Louisiana, 11.5 point favorites. I kind of agree with you, Shane. I think they beat the pants off Rice. Rice, you can go back to your chemistry set because you don't belong on the gridiron with Louisiana. You know what? That concludes second and short, Shane. And you know what? I felt like it was just so much more efficient without Thibodeaux. Thibodeaux just weighed it down, right? You and I just flew through it.
That's true. We were efficient. We moved the ball. We moved the chains. We moved the chains on second and short, which is
we
what
did.
You want to do.
It was
that's all you want to do.
Moving of the chains. We didn't call timeout. We didn't have to do a TV timeout and have the band play. We just powered through it. It was from yard 1 to the touchdown. What a score for us. Yes.
Another Sun Belt Conference legend joins us, Anthony Gator, a guy right there from in Miami at the storied Northwestern High School, stays home to gamble on going to FIU. Anthony, tell me about that recruitment to get you to be a Panther.
Oh man, first started with, great of all, Mario Cristobal, just the way, our relationship popped off when we first met each other. Just I love everything about the guy's energy, just everything about him. From the first day I met him, he just let me know I was going to be a Panther. So that kind of really drew my interest towards going to FIU.
You were there from time 2007 to 2010. 2007, I think, was like a maybe 3-win season. Obviously, building up to that 2010 season where y'all won the Sun Belt Conference, going to the Little Caesars Bowl. What were the big things that you saw change during that time that really propelled the Panthers further and further up the standings?
To be honest, the first year I was there, 2007, I think we was 1-11. We had beat North Texas our last game. And just from there, that was like the building point right there. It's just how we came together as a team, and we wanted, started from the head coach, just going out and recruiting, getting the players and, trusting in the coaches and trusting each other. And, we just always wanted to win and build something very special. So it just started from that first game, but beating North Texas in 2007, our last game.
2007, that win, was that a bigger win because that was, as you said, the only one in 2007 because it was your first win, or the fact that it was the last game played in the Orange Bowl?
I guess it was a mix of a lot, every day you go to practice and you putting in the work, you grinding, and you're not getting the results you want. It's kind of like hurtful, we were working our butts off every day, and to finally get that one and seeing it pay off at the end and understand, no matter what, just continue to fight every day, continue to put in that work, don't never stop, and it's gonna pay off at the end. So that was the excitement to see how we stuck together through the whole season, because we could have easily just, see another game and like, okay, this is the last game, let's just get through it, to get over with and go through the off season, but to continue to fight and, every day in practice, that was big for the whole team to just come together at the end and stay together throughout the season, what was going on.
Tied for second all time in Sun Belt Conference with 3 pick sixes. Do you still remember all those plays and know exactly who the quarterback was?
I remember just the 2. I know one against Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky. I don't remember the third one. But no, I don't know. I don't remember the quarterback at all.
Do you remember the plays?
Oh, the plays. Yes, I remember the plays. I do remember the plays. I know one was I jumped the slant.
In 2008, you probably got to play with one of the best offensive players ever in the Sun Belt Conference, T.Y. Hilton. What did he bring to the table to really get y'all again to your senior season there of 2010? But what did he do to really propel the Panthers there as well?
Oh man, that guy was electric. He brought a spark to the team. That what we were missing, that missing piece we were missing. He brought it, the energy. The competitive the guy was, and every day seeing that guy go at it, going against and just help me get better. Iron sharpen iron. And you have guys like that to come and help the team out. It spark. It get a spark to the team immediately. So him coming out and committing, that was a big spot for FIU, and that kind of got the ball rolling also.
Yeah, I mean, when you look up and down the history book there at FIU, he's all over the offensive side. You're all over the defensive side. What does it mean now that you're back on those same sidelines as a defensive analyst?
I'm honored. I'm honored to be a part, to be able to come back and give these guys the knowledge, of the game, and let them know what it takes to get where they're trying to go at, and having that experience, so I can share that knowledge and give back. It's an honor, man. That's the whole thing. Just giving back. It's an honor to do so. So whenever I have a time to also give back to to the youth or to the young man, I'm always head first to do that, because they need us. And I remember the days where I wanted others to pour in me, the other guys I looked up to or guys I was who inspired me, when they poured back at me, I know what it did to me. So to be there and, let them understand, like, okay, I'm not just talking from a book, I'm talking from experience, and I did it from where you at right now. I wasn't at no Power 5 school. I did it right here where you guys stand at. So just give these guys hopes and courage and inspiration.
3-time All Sun Belt Conference, including twice first team in 2008, 2010, leading all the way up to the 2011 NFL draft when you were one of 5 Sun Belt players selected by Tampa Bay in the 7th round. What was it like making that transition from the college game to the NFL?
It was a big jump, because when you're talking from college to the NFL, it's both of them is a business, but now you're talking about when money really, back then, money wasn't involved. So, in the NFL, when money get involved, things are different, things change, more expectations. Far as football, it was always been football, but it's just different, far as the roster cut down. So every day you come to work, it ain't no days off or days, at college where you could have took a day off and, healed up. And the NFL, these guys coming in every Tuesday, you got to work out every Tuesday. Just got to stay on your P's and Q's and, take care of your body, take mind and stay focused and locked in. It's just a different type of business when you reach that level. And that's the highest level. So more is required from you at that level.
You still keep up with your former coach, Mario Cristobal?
Oh, that's my guy, man. When he got the Miami job, I reached out to him. And before that, we was at Oregon, Alabama. I remember when Alabama played the national championship, I think it was in Tampa that year. We reached out, I always kept in contact with him. That was, so he mean more than coach to me. We had a special relationship, just going through hard times on the field, off the field, dealing with one of our former player, Kendall Berry, when he passed away. We just stuck together. And like I say, it wasn't just that he was a coach and all about S's and O's. He was more as a guy that, was there for me there for anybody, who was connected to him. He always been that type of guy, just, care for his players and care for others. So I always kept in contact with him. Still do to this day, after wins and, whenever you have time, even if it's about football, just how you doing, seeing everything okay. Great guy, man. I love him.
Biggest memory you have of your time playing at FIU?
Oh, man, the biggest memory? When the game we wanted to go to the Little Caesar Bowl. That was the biggest one, how we came together and the locker room, man, to this day, I still can vividly see us in that locker room having fun, celebrate, when you went through them hard times, and that's be the best thing about it. When you do have success like that, you don't really dwell on the success, you dwell on the hard time, what got us there, the 1-11 season. Then, I forgot the second year we didn't go, but, just building from there and how we kept going, kept fighting and actually see the reward at the end, it make it all worth it. So that time in the locker room, just celebrate with the guys and knowing we was going to a bowl game and first time in FIU history to be able to build something special that your kids going, something a story you could tell your kids and something they're gonna be for no matter what. Nobody can ever take that away from you. So that was and build with the guys, and that was the best time. That's just that's the best moment of my college career right there. That moment going to that winning that game, going to a bowl game.
Awesome stuff, Anthony. Well, I thank you so much for joining us, and looking forward to catching up with you and seeing how your coaching career takes off.
I appreciate it, man. Anytime you need me on the show, anytime, man. I'm here. I'm available. I appreciate you for having me, and thank you so much.
So there we are, another Sun Belt Conference legend and Anthony Gator of FIU. Jeremy, it's always great to talk about the early days of the leagues, the early days of FIU, a program that I know is still down right now, but did have that Sun Belt Conference championship in 2010. Back-to-back bowl appearances, including a championship there in the Little Caesars Bowl.
Yeah.
You got to remember the history to build the future.
And I tell you what, it's great to look back at that history and be able to see, look where we started then and where the Sun Belt is now. Back then, the Sun Belt was almost like a boutique football conference. You know what it reminds me a little bit of? Kind of like the MAC is now. The MAC to me is a conference that always spits out one good team every year, one good team. Now the Sun Belt is a conference that could spit out 5 or 6 good teams, and it leaves you wondering who's the best. So hats off to these old timers who made the Sun Belt great. They paid their dues. It's on their shoulders that we're standing up today, and we really do appreciate that.
Plugs, promos, parting shots. Lay it on me, Jeremy.
But you know what? I Tibbs, do you gamble?
Do I what?
Do you gamble? Do you roll the dice?
That's immoral.
Yeah, me neither. But sometimes I do look at the Vegas lines, and I'm looking at them this week, and I feel like Vegas still isn't quite giving the Sun Belt the respect it deserves. And I don't know what it is. Like, for instance, let's look at that Virginia Old Dominion game, for instance. Virginia is not a good team. They looked horrible against Illinois. We talk a little bit about that in second and short. But it's like, why should they get almost a 10-point spread on Old Dominion? I don't really see that. And so there are some others too that, even though it's sort of settling down a little bit, how many weeks do you think it takes for Vegas to really truly understand the Sun Belt?
I think it's one of those like the old Tootsie Roll with the owl. The world may never know.
I do. Here's one thing I like about Sun Belt being under the radar is that because I know a little bit more about the Sun Belt than others, you can kind of bet it that way, right? Like Vegas is kind of looking at the past, and they're not really seeing what's in the future. You and I know, who's a good team. We knew, for instance, that Georgia Southern was going to put it to Nebraska. We knew that. And we knew that Marshall was going to play a good game against Notre Dame, way better than the spread had assumed. And we knew Appalachian State wasn't going to get housed by A&M. We just knew those things. Well, when is Vegas going to know them? That's my parting shot. But my promo is readhowraiser.com. We've got some good articles. Arkansas State versus Memphis coming up. I'm going to be there as a fan in the stands, cheering it on. If you see me, don't talk to me because I may not recognize you, and it's always a little awkward.
My plug promo parting shot headed to the high dollar side of Houston as the Louisiana Raging Cajuns take on the Rice Owls.
Nice.
I will be there to take it all in and try to catch up with head coach Mike DeZormo after the game, as well as Chandler Fields. That's my goal.
Chandler Fields, for my promo, one half of a quarterback duo.
One half of a quarterback duo.
Yeah.
As for my promo, I yield my time to Commissioner Keith Gill, who I caught up with this past week at Texas State, and he's going to end it talking about the new teams after week 2.
Ooh.
These new guys coming in already making a name for the Sun Belt, does that kind of help bolster those decisions that you chose those schools?
I think so. We were trying to find quality football schools. Obviously, you look at, JMU plays an FBS school, their first game, and they obviously have great success. Marshall winning at Notre Dame is huge. So Southern Miss played, well today as well, and obviously ODU beat Virginia Tech last week. So we're really excited about, the addition. We already had quality football, but obviously the 4 new members, help us enhance that quality.
Is there room for expansion?
I think what I would say is, we're always going to explore opportunities, but we feel good about where we are. 14 is a good number. The makeup of our conference is pretty good right now, so I feel like we're certainly going to sit tight, but obviously if a great opportunity comes, then we got to make sure that we explore and check it out.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.